Well, howdy there, everybody. How you doing today? You know, I wanted to talk for a moment about positivity. I know it's a different angle, actually. The camera's kind of focused in on my face a little closer. I'm using a different lens, which requires me to set the camera a little further back. But you don't care about that, right? Yeah, you know, finding the positive in life, in situations, is, it just, whenever I talk about something like that, it just seems so cheesy. It's kind of like the, you know, inspirational speakers. Actually, I mentioned this on a previous video, that guy, Prince EA, or Ia, however you pronounce it. He's made a couple of really stupid videos lately about the virus and whatnot. You know, just propaganda type, like, I don't know. To me, it's, everybody is using negative events to sell their merch or to profit off of something. It's the way it's always been, right? It's really easy to focus in on the negatives. It's also easy to focus in on the negatives of what's going on in our personal lives. So what I wanted to talk for a moment about was finding the positive. Now, over the last month, I've talked pretty much just about the virus because, hey, it's what's on our frickin' minds. I mean, that's what we're thinking about. It's not, regardless of what you believe, it's affecting everyone in the world. So it's a very unique time in our lives, and it's hard not to think about it. But we are wired psychologically to see negatives. It's because it's protected us in the past. As I mentioned in the past, the video I just made yesterday, I talked about like pareidolia and apophenia, which is like seeing faces in things or seeing patterns that may or may not be connected, and how that saved our asses in the past because of tigers in the bushes or whatnot. You're better off thinking you see something dangerous than not. Because of that, we're also wired to see the negatives. When we see a potential like job offer or a potential you know, situation in life where we think we might gain something, there's always this, oh, something's going to go wrong, or, you know, this might not work out. And there's a part of us that always looks for the negative, just like in each other. Even if I make a video, let's say, talking about a whole bunch of positive things, there's always at least one subscriber who picks out some one line in the video and dwells on the negative, because that's how their mind thinks. Well, or they hate me, whatever it might be. Or maybe I'm just an idiot and the line I said was stupid. That's not really the point. The point is that we are wired to see negatives, therefore we can decide to reprogram our minds to see more positives. We are safer and feel more protected when we are resistant to others and when we suspect everyone and don't trust anybody, and I'll get to that in a minute. I've always called it alchemy, and I've said that before, but back in my kind of occult research days, when I was kind of fascinated with the power of positive thinking or the mind, I went through all these phases of reading everything from, what was it, The Secret, when it came out, that book, you know, and then reading some Eckhart Tolle, reading all these different like spiritual books and finding this is a little bit fake for me. So I moved on to something a little deeper, and I got into Manly P. Hall, and I thought, this is a little bit too deep for me, and too dark for me, more than that. But there was a glimmer of light within those discussions that Manly Hall said, because for about a year, I listened to Manly P. Hall and Alan Watts consistently at work, all day long on my headphones. And when I ran out of stuff to listen to, I went to the Great Courses series, which is a philosophical lecture series that at the time I downloaded the torrent file, and it was huge. It had like all of them for free. I borrowed them, let's say, and listened to those at work for like 6-8 months. Every day at work, while everybody else was listening to music, I had my headphones trying to figure out what's a safer way to think. But what's a better way to think? So this morning I got up and I wrote like a 5-6 page, like kind of an essay, if you will, about why it's better. You're better off to think on a positive level. I decided not to share it, and this is kind of something I was going to mention earlier. I write a lot of papers. I mean, like this one actually that I have over here, I wrote yesterday, and you know, it's relatively small print. It's about six pages long, And this one is about about police abuse of power, the ATF, Waco, Ruby Ridge. I decided not to share that. I have dozens, if not 100 or more, of these papers that I've written that I haven't shared, for the mere fact that I don't want to add to the anger or negativity out there. And the reason I'm making this point is because, you know, whenever I do, there's always somebody, whenever I do dwell into the chaos of the world, there's always somebody who's like, oh, I didn't subscribe to your channel for this, you know, oh, I thought you were this way, or I thought you were this way. You know, I'm a fucking human, all right? I think the way I think, and I try to understand the world the best I can. I am a positive thinker, and I try not to dwell on the negative. But the minute you bring it up, there's always somebody who just can't handle it. And that's not the reason I don't talk about it. The reason I don't talk about it is because I don't want to immerse myself in it. In other words, I get my thoughts out, get my feelings out. I don't spend too much time criticizing politics or the president, but in the few times that I do, out of 4,000 videos, there's always somebody who's like, oh, you're too political. But that's not the point here. Our circumstances make it very hard to practice positive thinking, if you will. And that's what I wanted to get to. You know, it's easy for a person to say, well, let's just look at the positive in things. It's easy if you're an American and you live in a great neighborhood and you have a lot of money, but not so easy if you're in a refugee camp in Africa and you're worried about dying from starvation or a virus or anything else. There aren't a lot of people on this earth that have the options that we do. You know, or I should say there are a lot of people who do not have the options we have, and I'm grateful for that. So positive thinking to me is gratitude. I make it a point every year, usually around the end of the year, where I talk about gratitude and my gratitude for life and make a video about it. I think it's important, you know, to be grateful for what we have and what we've been given by chance or nature or God or whatever you believe. It doesn't matter what your damn beliefs are. You know, that was a major focus on the paper. I actually did a second paper today where I took a ton of notes about failed prophecies. Everything from, it started with the QAnon failed prophecies. There's like dozens. And then I started going back in time, looking at Mormons, looking at all the people through history who had predicted the end of the world, the second coming of Christ, the cataclysm, the Armageddon. And after I thought about it for a couple hours, I thought, it's too bad that every prophecy is negative. Not all of them, but I would say at least well over 90% of the prophecies I've heard have been about destruction and death. And it leads one to wonder, why do people want this and welcome this? Sometimes people just want a renewal. And, you know, maybe, I know a lot of you realize that I'm a little bit nihilistic and I have kind of an apocalyptic view on some things. Kind of like a let it burn attitude. And I do. But that's a part of me that I'm working with. I'm saying, well, I understand society has worked as hard as it can to get to where it is, but there's also a huge sect of people who abuse it. How can we reconcile that? How can we fix the world we live in? And because of these issues, because people don't trust one another, and because there is so much corruption, then people do see things through a negative lens. You know, that's a crucial thing to be aware of. We see things negatively because it's safer, as I said before. I do the same thing. Being pessimistic about the future, about politics, about everything, it's easy to say everybody's out to get you. I get that. And I do it too. But are we happier if we live the hippie, free-flowing type tie-dye attitude, let's say, and see things on a good level? Hey bro, I'll give you a hug and trust you, and if you screw me over, oh well, I took my chances, but at least I made a friend in the meantime, right? It's taken me a long time to get there. You know, I don't want to go into my personal life here, but when I was younger, I was wronged by two good friends of mine at different times, but within a couple of years, about a year of each other. They stole important family heirlooms, did things to me that at the time I don't blame them for now, because meth is a hell of a drug, okay? I've been through some shit in my life, and so have my friends, and in the end, I've made up with people and let things go. But there was a time where I was hunting people down. I hated people. I didn't trust a soul. I didn't make new friends for like 10 years. And then I realized, you've got to let shit go, you know? It's not like I was an angry dude. I was still the, you know, kind of hippie, free-flowing dude. But I still have this idea. If you cross me, fuck you. I'll get you. Not get you back or anything, but rather I will have no interest in being part of your life. You're gone. You know, if you rip me off, if you lie to me, if you get me in trouble for something stupid, I'll just completely cut off ties with a person. And I've done it a lot, and I've lost a lot of, quote, friends over it, but really I still have my good friends, which are the most important people. Friends, family, you know. But those are people you can trust. And trust is a major issue. And so a lot of people who can't trust others end up getting themselves into situations where they give people too much of their trust, and that it is abused. And then they really hate society. And that's the thing. It brings up a quote that I did hear from Manly Hall, which goes way back before him. You cannot cheat an honest man. I've said it so many times, but it's not necessarily true 100%. But what it basically means is if you're not expecting to get more than you've put in the effort for, you know, if somebody says, hey, give me $10 and I'll give you 1,000, and you take that chance and lose it, it's because you're being selfish and greedy. You didn't earn that money. You know, why would you get something free that you didn't put into? So it's kind of the honest work for an honest wage. And it's a complicated issue, but let's take this to the current situation. I mean, circumstances set us back in life. We have positive moments where we're feeling great about life, and then something sets us back. And to be perfectly honest, about 6 months ago, I started just kind of falling into a rut right when winter started. And this rut was at its peak when this virus hit. And here I am, trying to make the best of it. I'm actually outside gardening right now, and I was going to plant my seeds. I've got cannabis and a variety of other, you know, vegetables and herbs, but I was going to make a video where I was going to put together kind of my my seed planting experience, but I thought about the current situation. I thought, what are the positives? Well, for some people, those positives are negatives, but there's cleaner air, there's cleaner water. I mean, not just that, but we're helping each other. People are showing to be the ones that help one another and not the government, which is the way it should be. And it just shows that we don't really need government input to get things done. And I hope that people wake up to the fact that, you know, I'm not an anarchist. I'm not, I'm not left or right wing. I just believe in a self-governing smaller body. A tribe mentality is okay, as long as the tribe doesn't have to fight within its own borders. You get it? A tribe over here and a tribe over here is fine. It's not about separation. It's about the fact that people deserve their own little areas. And I think that, you know, I've always supported Cascadia. In other words, the West Coast separating from the rest of the United States. I'd have no problem with that. And that sounds ridiculous to some people, because it's the way it's always been. It's the United States. But it hasn't always been that way. We took in Alaska. We took in Hawaii. We've grown. But why couldn't we, you know, divide up into areas where we agree with our own policies and see what works? Sorry to get off topic there, but it was just a thought of mine. Because people have been helping each other, and in certain areas it's working a lot better than others, and maybe we should listen to each other and see this aspect that can help us. But in other news, pandas are fucking in the zoo. I'm sorry to bring that up again, but, you know, they've been trying to get these pandas in the Tokyo Zoo, I believe, to mate for 10 years or more, and they haven't even made an attempt. And the minute that the quarantine happened and people went home, they've got videos of the pandas just going at it, and it is phenomenal. You know, it's just wild boars running in the streets, deer running in the streets. The point I'm trying to make is the positive side of this, what's happened, has shown me that as soon as humans stop their petty squabbling and their progress to move forward and build more buildings and create more pollution, the earth really can recover in a short amount of time. I'm just going to say this is an experiment that has never been done, can never be done again, and is only a forced experiment that is affecting the whole world. If you go look at Delhi in India. New Delhi is just, you can see mountain ranges in some places that you've never been able to see before. There are some cities that are like twice as clean, you know, like 40% the pollution they had before. And when you really think about that, that's an amazing experiment that allows us to really say, you know, could we do things differently? We're managing. We're still able to get the factories running and the telecommuting done in the places we can. I know it's easy to think, well, for the next 50, 100 years, 1,000 years, we're all going to be hopping in our cars, starting up a gasoline engine, with one person in the car and driving to work. And I'd like to ask anybody, do you really think that that is a viable option for long term? And I think most people would agree, no, we need to change a few things. So this leads me into the media. The media has ruined our perception of reality. And I'm going to say, I'm not going to speak any specifics because I would like to say that any one media isn't biased. And sure, there are some small-time independent journalists that do a great job. But let's just say everyone is biased. In the 1980s, it was the Reagan administration that abolished the Fairness Doctrine, which the Fairness Doctrine was supposed to give media, force media to give equal voices to both sides of the issue. What the media companies argued was that that abolished their free speech rights. So they took it to court. And they were correct. I completely agree with them. The media should be able to say whatever they want because they are the media. But then people had the other side argument, well, it's almost a public service. Like, if you're going to be in the media, you should report what's actually going on both sides. But the point being, it was abolished. And this is how Fox branched off from NBC, CNN, all these other companies. And I just want to make this really brief. I absolutely cringe when I see CNN headlines. I cringe when I see NBC headlines. Everybody is out to get Trump, the president. Everybody is out to cause division. But this also, you have to admit, this extends into the Fox network and into the right-wing media, Breitbart. And you know why I can say that? Because I go to Fox, I go to Breitbart, I go to NBC, I go to CNN. All I do is scan the headlines. And if there's anything that sounds like it may be credible, I click on it, and then I cross-reference it, and I look through a lot of other sources, and then I decide if it's worthy of my time. I would like to say that every other American does the same thing. That we all analyze things, cross-check things. But you and I both know that's bullshit. A lot of people watch the news, they listen to their favorite talk show host, and they think it's true. Look at what's happened with Dr. Phil and Dr. Oz, the two douchebags who have been promoting bullshit cures for years. Thank you, Oprah. Well, apparently recently a lot of people called out Oprah and said that, hey, you need to call out, you know, these fake-ass doctors for making these claims that are bullshit. And she's, as far as I know, still hasn't done so because basically everybody in Hollywood and elsewhere is just money whores. All of them. Male and female, politicians and movie stars. The whole thing is just full of fake-ass people. But you and I, we have more of a connection. You know, the average person who just talks on YouTube or elsewhere, we are one. We really do have common interests. You know, regardless of what you think about me personally, you know, it doesn't matter. I'm broke. You know, I'm trying to make my way through life. I'm trying to find a new career. I have all these negative problems that I need to work on. I didn't get any tax rebates from the government because I haven't filed my taxes because I owe money and I don't have much. But I thought, I can make this work. I can do it. I can file my taxes. Maybe the rebate will cover the money I owe the government for my own business. And the reason I'm saying that is because I'm saying that I'm just with you all. I'm not an Instagram influencer with millions of dollars because I post something. I don't get that revenue. All of my YouTube videos have been done from the bottom of my heart or the top of my head or right out my ass, depending on how you look at it. But, you know, that's why I really appreciate the few Patreon supporters I do have. I won't mention that again, but I want to recognize the ones I do have, the people who actually made the effort to help me out. But, you know, I'm confused about life. I'm confused about where I want to go. And this virus has made it even more so. My wife and I have talked about buying a cabin in the woods. There's nothing I would like to do more than buy a piece of land with a small shack, drive my school bus up there, park and get out and work on the shack and build a cabin and have the resources to do so. I guess I would just say one last thing about the media before I go. There's an old saying, if it bleeds, it leads. That just means that if there's blood and carnage and chaos, then it's going to be a lead story and they're going to get a lot of views and clicks off of it. And this isn't just for mainstream media. This is for alternative media. The flat earth groups, all of them. The QAnon conspiracies, selling their mugs and t-shirts. People are really fucking stupid. And hopefully you're not one of them. I'm one of them. I'll admit it. I'm stupid in my own way. But I'm hoping that there are some humans out there that can see through this kind of bullshit enough to move forward as a species. There are no real good prophecies. There are only negative prophecies, to kind of reiterate what I said at the beginning. It's always looking for the bad side of things, the apocalypse. But what about a utopia, a good future? Can we do it? I don't know. I really don't know. Well, I'd like to leave you with the quote I thought of myself, because I'm so famous. It said that trusting people might kill you, but not trusting anyone will kill you. Thanks for listening. I'll talk to you later. Hopefully you find the positive in things. And if you've been having crazy dreams lately, I'm going to make a second video about that. So we'll talk about that later. Be well.